FPL and the Premier League are officially back tomorrow. In 48 hours' time, we will know how that first Salah captaincy has gone. We will know whether we're off to a good start or maybe a bad start. In today's video, we are going to focus on having a look at my new team selection. I have changed a few things from my draft on Monday. We've had a little bit of injury news and a bit of return to training news for the likes of Morgan Rogers. No spoilers. That may have impacted my draft as well. So in today's video, that's what we're focusing on. Less than 48 hours to go until game week 1. So here is my game week 1 team selection. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, I'm going to set a monumental target for the game week 1 team selection with 5,000 likes on this video. Can we hit it? Probably for the first time I think I'll ever have hit that target. Drop the like on the video, subscribe if you are new around here, and welcome to the game week 1 team selection. As you're tuning in for the last time, probably to plug it, it is 5 years of top 10Ks back to back, and actually it's 5 years of top 7Ks back to back over the last 5 years, with 510th being my highest. I'm going to do my best to do it once over again. I'm going to do my best to help you get your ranks to where you want them to be, win your mini leagues this season as well. So if you want to join along for the ride, make sure you subscribe, because of course we are trying to hit 200,000 subscribers before the game week 1 deadline. We're about 13,000 away with a couple more videos and a deadline stream. If you really helped it out, we might be able to get there. But I do want to say a massive thank you, as this is one of the final preseason videos, just as thank you for the support on the channel. I was just thinking today, about a year and a half ago, where I hit 100,000 subscribers on my channel, which was an incredible day, an absolute dream come true, and a day that I never thought I would have when I started this channel, when I started thinking about FPL, started playing the game. And now to think we are in the prospect that we might be able to hit 200,000 subscribers on the channel is just absolutely mind-blowing to me. Plus the support you've had just this preseason as well. I was a little bit slow to start because I had my honeymoon. The amazing messages you gave me there, and then just to think the way that you've supported the videos, how many of you have watched it, is just honestly incredible. I can't say thank you enough for the support that you've shown me, the support you've shown the channel over the years of me doing it, and particularly recently as well. So I just want to take this opportunity before we dive in to have a look at the draft, just to say thank you for all of you tuning in, for you liking, subscribing, and the support on the channel, and to me personally as well. One final thing to go before we have a look at my draft is we're at the point now in preseason where we're tinkering our final decisions, right? We're tinkering all of those 50-50 calls. You're deciding on your 4.5 midfielders, or you're, do I go with Wirtz and a cheaper forward, or do I go with João Pedro and a cheaper midfielder? We're at the point now with preseason where we've kind of eliminated all of the really big calls that are quite obvious. And we're now, even like Salah versus no Salah, we're in the sort of vicinity now where we're making decisions which are maybe 45-55 one way or the other, or they're 50-50, or they're somewhere in between. And we can do our best with the amount of research and the amount of planning that we're doing for these videos and we're doing in the last few hours before the deadline. But at the end of the day, it's going to be decided by luck. It's going to be decided by variance, those final calls. We can cross our fingers and we can hope that we will be on the right side of that luck and the right side of the variance, as I'm very well aware that I've been over the past few years. But it is just a reminder that once the season starts, that there will be calls that you make the right decision, that don't go the right way, because football is a game played on grass and we can't do everything in our power to plan and get everything right. Some things will definitely go wrong. But let's dive in with those 50-50 decisions in mind and see where my team is currently. So I'm actually out and about in London today, but I've taken just a minute to tell you why Fotmob is the app you need to get all of your information during live games for the Premier League this season. So first of all, look at my home screen, right? I've got all the games that I want on my home screen with live scores before I even have to open my phone. Once we go in, you can see the app. I follow all 20 Premier League teams and I've got all their live scores pre-season today. So I'm recording on Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock, just as basically every team is having pre-season. Now, I want to use Man United as an example. They played earlier, drew 1-1. If you go to lineups in that game, scroll down. So Bruno Fernandes picked up an assist in that game in terms of FPL contributions, but he also got defensive contributions. He got 2 clearances, 1 interception, and 9 recoveries, which would have got him a +2. And you can track that in real time during the matches. If you go to player profile and we just pick a Premier League game, for example, let's go and pick their game against Nottingham Forest, for example, and we go to lineups once again, you could track Elliot Anderson, who's a good one. You could have a look at Gibbs White, but of course, Bruno Fernandes. He can actually have a look and see that he got defensive contributions in this game as well with 11 ball recoveries.
So you can do that, but most importantly, you have the fantasy tab on this app as well, which will give you live points for your fantasy team, including you could see in this game that who got the bonus points. You can see Alanga did with the goal that he scored to win Nottingham Forest the game. That was the goal. He ran half the length of the pitch in order to score. So you have that on top of being able to track things like defensive contributions. You've got stats like XG in here. You've got stats like live XA as the game goes on. With all that, plus the data I can just have straight on my home screen, I'm going to be using this all throughout the season to keep up to date with scores, 3 o'clock kickoffs, all of it. You can follow teams outside of the Prem if you want as well.
So let's go ahead and have a look at my draft. In goal, we are sticking with Dubravka and Sanchez. I just see Sanchez as the only route into the Chelsea defence that I really want to make. I look at the likes of Tosin in my defence, in the Chelsea defence. I look at the likes of Cucurella. Cucurella feels too expensive. Tosin isn't fully nailed. Those are probably the two that I would consider, but I don't think I want to go with either of those. And the Chelsea defence doesn't really get good defensive contributions. So Sanchez is a good way to get those Chelsea clean sheets without not having a defender that isn't good for defensive contribution. So I have gone with Sanchez. Dubravka is still yellow flagged, and if he doesn't start the first couple of weeks, he will likely drop in price because people will look to sell him if he doesn't feature. But I do think the long-term plan for Burnley is to have a Premier League proven goalkeeper, and I do expect that to be Dubravka. So I am going to go with him. If he comes in for game week 1 and I can start him in game week 2 at home to Sunderland, that is something I'll consider. But yeah, he's just going to be there. He's my favourite 4.0 because I just expect him to get that shirt at Burnley eventually, even if it's not at the start of the season. And then we're moving into defence. And I'd built a really nice defence that was Porro, Munoz, Williams of Nottingham Forest, and Tarkowski, and a 4 million option in Estev on the bench that I loved, and it rotated really well. It did mean I had to pull a bit of money out of my attack, which I didn't like as much, but I really liked it. And then this afternoon, we got the news that Branthwaite has picked up an apparent hamstring injury. Now, there are also rumours that it isn't going to be that long. It might only be until the first international break, but it's probably enough to put me off spending 5.5 million on Tarkowski, just because although the defensive contributions are great, without Branthwaite there, they don't have Mikolenko as well. I don't expect many clean sheets for them, so I decided to opt away from that. And then as a result, it impacted so much of my squad because that rotation worked so well that I didn't need to worry about my defense. But as soon as that came out, it then tried to change a few other things. So my defense does look a little bit different. We've stuck with Pedro Porro. Now, I was actually watching the Spurs PSG game, of course, on Wednesday evening. He is all right for defensive contributions. He's taken some set pieces, and you can see again on the Fotmob app that he was playing right wing back. Now, that is not something we necessarily expect to happen continuously for Spurs and for Porro, particularly Burnley at home in game week 1. I don't expect a back 5, but it's something to worth noting that Thomas Frank did do it at Brentford. So, for example, Manchester City in game week 2, could I just play Porro if he's going to play wing back and be on all set pieces? Like, absolutely I can. So I start to really like that, particularly with Maddison out. Now, if Eze was to sign for Spurs, he might end up taking all set pieces off Porro, which would knock him back a little bit, but I can look to make a transfer further down the line on him. I've also looked to upgrade Williams to Milenkovic. Williams is good. He's probably the least nailed of all the Forest defenders, though. They are being linked with other left backs like Leif Davis towards the end of the transfer window. I don't expect it to impact him in the near future, but once Champions League does start, I don't really want that headache. Plus, when you add in someone like a Milenkovic or a Murillo, I haven't fully decided which it's going to be. At the moment, I've got Milenkovic just because I don't feel the gap in defensive contribution ability between them is that great, but I do feel like Milenkovic has much better goal threat. Plus, in like game week 4, when they play Arsenal, if I have to play Milenkovic, that's fine, but I wouldn't really want to play Williams because the centre-backs have that defensive contribution ability, whereas Williams doesn't really have that. So I've opted to upgrade to go for Milenkovic. And that has then left me with 2 4.5 defenders. And Richards is one of my favourite 4.5 defenders. But the issue I've got is I'm pretty certain by about game week 4 or 5, I'll really want Munoz of Crystal Palace. And he'll probably come in for Pedro Porro. And if I've gone with Richards, I don't think I'll want a Palace double up. So as a result, I haven't got Richards in here. Plus, they are being rumoured to lose Gay to Liverpool, which would impact them defensively. They play Chelsea, Forest and Villa in the first 3, which is against a lot of my attackers. So I've decided not to go with Richards, despite the fact that I actually think he's one of the best standalone 4.5 options. So what I've done is I've gone with a rotation. Anderson at Fulham is great for defensive contributions. They had one of the best defenses for underlying data, but actually massively underperformed last year. They haven't massively changed the way that their defense looks. So I'm hoping with some of the opening fixtures that he might do quite well. And like Brighton away, I don't really expect a clean sheet there, but he could easily get a couple of defensive contributions in that as well. So that's why I've gone with him. And he rotates really well with Dorgu of Manchester United. He was a player I discussed quite a lot and liked a lot earlier on in pre-season. And then when I was building my rotating defense, I suddenly needed a defender to rotate with either Fulham or Palace. And I realized that in my top defenders to buy video, I'd literally discussed that Dorgu does both of those things. And then we've gone the Stev of Burnley. He rotates well with Porro in game week 2 if I decide not to play Pedro Porro, as Stev has Sunderland at home in that week. So that is the 5 defenders that I've gone with. It's quite balanced. And the reason I also like Milenkovic over going with Williams at Forest is if I want a Munoz, I want another 6 million defender. If Porro is the only 5.5 or more defender that I've got, it makes it a little bit more difficult to go and get up to one of those. So having 2 5.5s, I feel like is quite good for my team structure. So now moving into my midfield, and things have changed a little bit. So we've gone with Salah, Palmer and Bruno, and those 3 have stayed pretty much throughout this week and over. Once I decided to put Bruno in over Florian Wirtz, that's kind of the decision that I'm settled on now. Salah, I like. I understand some of you wanting to take them out. And actually, the response on my video yesterday was really interesting about the amount of people going for a draft without Salah in, and his ownership is dropping. But I just like him for captaincy in 3 of the first 4 weeks. And the only week I don't like him is game week 3 when he has Arsenal and Manchester United have Burnley at home that week. Or I could go with Cole Palmer at home to Fulham as well. So I like those 3 for captaincy reliability. I like Fernandez's route to points. I don't trust Cunha and Mbeumo just yet. For a minute, they're also unlikely to be on set pieces. They won't have penalties like they did before. Fernandez is just so focal. Cole Palmer as well. I put him in all the drafts in my video yesterday. I just think he's going to be a mainstay in my team for the start of the season. Those Chelsea fixtures are really good. I do have João Pedro in this draft, and I might well look to change him, but I do want a piece of that Chelsea attack because Chelsea are a team we do expect to score an awful lot of goals this year, the way that they've been in pre-season, the way they were in the Club World Cup as well. So I'm pretty happy with the Salah, Palmer, Fernandez. And what has changed is Morgan Rogers being pictured back in with his teammates, walking in from training, sounding and walking like he's absolutely fine. He picked up a slight injury at the weekend, but he's hardly missed any time if he's already back in training on Wednesday. At 7 million, I really like him. Now, I did try to force Florian Wirtz into this position over Morgan Rogers, but that $1.5 million, when Rogers actually probably has a better run of fixtures over the first 3, that run of fixtures and the $1.5 million goes such a long way to upgrading my defense and my forward line as well. So we'll talk about that, but I have gone with Rogers despite the fact that he's yellow flagged. If we get to the press conference and Unai Emery says he's not ready, which I really, really would be surprised at now, I would probably find a way to go even just to Cody Gakpo. I probably wouldn't go all the way up to Florian Wirtz. I would find 0.5 and I'd go Gakpo, like I do Milenkovic down to Williams and I do Rogers to Gakpo if Rogers isn't going to be available. That's also something I could consider, but I don't see myself forcing Florian Wirtz into this midfield unless it was at the expense of someone like Bruno, which I don't think I'll do. And then the next change is Elliot Anderson, who has been my go-to midfielder in all my drafts, has been dropped for Dewsbury Hall. Dewsbury Hall looked so key to what Everton were doing in their most recent pre-season friendly. He created 4 chances, 2 big chances that I was tracking during the match as well on the Fotmob app. Was so impressed with him. He played number 10 alongside Illiman and Dye. The general prediction is that he will be the number 10, Grealish one side and Dye the other. It is possible that he drops a little bit further back if McNeil is, for example, going to start, but he also did take set pieces in that game. So a lot of it revolves around, do we think McNeil will start? Because if McNeil starts, it will drop Dewsbury Hall further back and it will take set pieces off him. But if McNeil doesn't start, Dewsbury Hall will likely play the number 10 and he'll be on set pieces for 5 million with the opening fixtures. Feels just as good an option as Illiman and Dye does for 1.5 million less. So he has gone in over Elliot Anderson. And then we move up front. João Pedro and it is Ollie Watkins. These 2 have been in almost all my drafts. I do wonder a little bit on João Pedro that I won't hold him for very long. I look at game week 4 when the Palace fixtures start to turn and think João Pedro to Mateta is just an absolute lock of a transfer. So why don't I do it in game week 1? But I just look at those first 3 Chelsea games and think, I do think João Pedro will score goals. So I'm going to go with João Pedro first, I think, and then look to move him on. I could, for example, do João Pedro to Fulkrog and upgrade Rogers to Wirtz. But again, if any of those 7.5 million strikers start to do well as Watkins, it makes it really difficult for me to go and get that player. Now, if Wirtz does well, I could easily just sell Bruno to go and get him. So I feel like having that 7.5 million forward along with a 7 million midfielder is slightly better for my depth and slightly better for my structure as well. I mean, let me know in the comments what you prefer. Fulkrog and Wirtz, or Rodgers if he's available, and João Pedro, which I'm sure Rodgers looks like he's going to be now. And then, of course, the final one is Mark Guiu. He's also yellow flagged, but I've got okay depth in this draft, and I do expect him to get in that Sunderland team eventually, even if it's just to be on the bench to start with, and then to come in later down the line to be their starting striker. I can't see that Chelsea let him go to Sunderland to not be a starter and not get reliable minutes. So I do think he'll come in eventually, although I don't expect it to be right at the start of the season. If you're picking him, he needs to be second or third on your bench for the first few weeks. So that is where my team is lining up. I feel like I've built drafts over the past week that's meant I've only had maybe 9 players that I really like, but I'm building this. And outside of Dewsbury Hall, I like all 15 in this squad, and Rodgers coming back has been a massive part of that because I haven't had to force in a Wirtz. If Rodgers is not available, and I will repeat this, Milenkovic to Williams and Rodgers to Gakpo is by far the most likely thing that I will do. I could also do Rodgers down to a 4.5 and get another 7.5 million forward and just go Mateta straight away. That is also possible. And Milenkovic down to Williams is the most likely place that I will look to free up that 0.5 because Gakpo is 7.5 and Mateta up front is also 7.5. So if there's doubt on Rodgers, those are the 2 moves that I would look to make. Dewsbury Hall at 5 instead of 5.5 for Anderson, I also really like. I am looking at Reinders of Manchester City. I do think I want a piece of the Manchester City team. I'm just not sure how reliably we think he's going to start every single week, but I might well regret that after the first couple of weeks if he's playing every week and playing in the positions that we've seen during pre-season. So yeah, that is where my draft is at with less than 48 hours, 36 hours to go until the game week 1 deadline. Please let me know what you think. I finally built a draft that I'm pretty much happy with every single player that I'm picking. I know the rotations work quite well. I think the only thing I'm missing is Manchester City, a bit of Arsenal, and Florian Wirtz. And you can't own everyone this year. Like maybe I shouldn't have João Pedro. Maybe I should try and squeeze that. But I think it looks pretty nice. And just let me know what you do on Morgan Rodgers. Would you go up to Wirtz? Would you go to Gakpo? Or would you just go to someone like Mateta? Or would you stick with Rodgers at 7 million, who I do really like with those Villa opening fixtures? But that is all of it. That is where we're at. The game week 1 deadline is tomorrow. Let me know any questions you have. There will be a complete guide covering everything you need. If you haven't watched the previous videos discussing everything, there will be a video tomorrow which covers absolutely everything you need. It will be a slightly longer one to get you ready for game week 1. We will, of course, have a deadline stream in the build-up to game week 1 as well for 2 hours, which if I make changes to my lineup, if anything's different to what it is now, we'll discuss all of that on that stream as well. Thank you all for watching. As I said at the beginning, please do subscribe as we are trying to hit 200,000 by game week 1. If you've enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed the preseason content, please do subscribe. 5,000 likes is the aim. Can we hit it for the first time ever? Have a great rest of your day. Have a great Friday and enjoy your final bits of tinkering. And I'll be back again very soon.